If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling stuck, if you feel like everything is hard and nothing is working, or if you've ever felt that way, this podcast is for you. It's short, it's 9 minutes, it's straight to the point, and it has the magical formula for hitting reset and finding your power again. And I don't even want to be cheesy about liking your power, your clarity and ability to drive, to take action, to be able to move on to the next step that's going to bring exactly what you want into fruition. And so without further ado, let's get into the show. Listen, if you are currently feeling stuck or overwhelmed or really emotional, or you've ever felt that way before, like everything I'm doing isn't working, or I'm just so frustrated I want to throw in the towel, or I just can't handle this, or I'm so emotional, then this podcast is for you. And it's going to be short because I get messages like this from my one-on-one clients all the time. And this is exactly how I respond and exactly how I support them and also support myself. And all too often I get so frustrated that people pretend that this is like an easy game, or all the boxes just get checked, or you just follow the simple plan, and we forget about ourselves and our own humanity in the process. And if you're feeling that way, number one, I want you to know that you're not alone and it's completely okay. Business changes rapidly. The online space changes rapidly. Offers, mechanisms, webinars, funnels, paid ads. And we forget that we're a human in the process. And it's so powerful to just acknowledge our feelings. And so I'm just going to respond to you like me just sent me that audio. And so the first thing I'm going to say is the moment you can recognize you're in that space, you've already won the game. As hard as it is to see most of the time, we forget to remove ourselves from the container or from the field where it's happening. But it's a symptom. And it's a symptom that our body, our gut, our heart, our soul, our mind is somewhere out of alignment, where it's screaming for us to pay attention to something. It's not screaming, keep going, suffer more, push harder. It's screaming, pause and take a step back. And so you just get to acknowledge that the experience you're having is completely okay and completely normal. You also get to acknowledge that you found it and had the courage to acknowledge it, which is the first step. Because in this game of entrepreneurship, all too often we fall into the trap of thinking that feelings are facts and acting on feelings instead of separating the feelings from the facts. And the first step of anything is awareness. And the awareness of something, whether it's a fear, whether it's an overwhelm, whether it's a shutdown, whether it's rumination, whether it's pondering how nothing's going to work, or I don't know where the next client's going to come through, or I don't know how I'm going to solve this problem. We try to fix them instantly instead of taking it as an invitation to pause and to take a step back. And so the most important thing is that those feelings are allowed. They're welcomed. They're a part of us. They're a gift. Think of it as like a co-pilot helping you navigate, but the co-pilot doesn't have the steering wheel. You do. And so the first thing you want to do whenever you feel those things, whether they're small, whether they're large, whether they happen once a day, 20 times a day, or even for me, sometimes 75 times a day in the current seasons of changes of my life, is to take a step back. The moment you feel it, take a step back and acknowledge what it is. Don't make it wrong. You can cry about it. You can hit a pillow, but don't make it wrong because it's welcome. And the moment you acknowledge it, I want you to take the time to create space. Let's call it rest. And we'll break this down into 3 R's. Rest, reset, and release. And rest simply means give yourself space from the thing that's causing the challenge. If it's inside the business, change your environment, step outside, go for a walk. Whatever that thing is that every time you do it, it supports you and it changes your perspective. I want you to lean into that thing. And when you lean into that thing, what you're doing is you're resetting your body. You're like coming into alignment. Sometimes for me, living in Montana, the first thing I do is when I get like that, I take my shoes off, my socks off, and I go stand in my front yard in the snow. And in about 10 seconds, my body resets. But the first thing you're going to do is acknowledge those feelings and then rest. Create separation from the trigger or the stimulus or the thing that's allowing it to go or making it worse, and step away. And that's rest. The second thing you're going to do is reset. You're going to actually reset your body. You're going to come back into your body. You're going to breathe. You're going to put your bare feet on the ground. You're going to go for a walk. Maybe you're going to do a set of 100 push-ups. Maybe you're going to journal and free write. Whatever brings you home, like home to your heart, home to your belly, and home to your head, all being aligned. And then the third thing you're going to do is release it. And that's why I say acknowledging is the most important part. Because the moment you acknowledge it and you don't make it wrong, you have the ability to release it. You can speak it out loud. You can write it in a journal. You can write it on a wall or on a sticky note, crumple it up and throw it in the trash. But you get to write it out and you get to release it. You can go outside and scream at the top of your lungs. I know for me, sometimes when I pray, I get in the shower. I don't try to pray perfectly. I just release all the fears. I'm like, Lord, please forgive me for this. I'm struggling with this. I'm having bad thoughts about this. Like I've judged this person. I feel like I've lost faith. Like I don't, and I just release it all. Sometimes that comes with tears. Sometimes it comes with laughter. Sometimes it's calm, but it's actually releasing it, which creates the space on the other side to be able to find the clarity. And once you've released it, and this can be in a small moment, as like a meeting didn't go as planned. It can be in a big moment, like you lost a one-on-one client. It could be in a moment of frustration where you're like, I just can't figure out why this isn't working. In any one of those moments, you get to step away. And the first thing you do is acknowledge it. The second thing you do is give yourself rest or space. The third thing you do is reset your body in a way that brings you home to your body. And then the next thing you do is release it and allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to go through, allow yourself to process. It could be as simple as a cry. It could be laughter. It could be anger. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 20 minutes. It could be 10 seconds. And whatever way that you release, and every single one of you listening to this has had a moment in your life where on the other side of a good cry or the other side of a primal scream or the other side of beating the poop out of a pillow, you felt relief after. And that relief space isn't the solution. It's the space to start finding the solution. And the first thing you do in that space is you take an inventory of everywhere that you've come from and look at the gain that you've made in your life. Think through moments where you've been in similar situations and reflect back on what you did. Remember that you've driven to this point. Remember that you've gotten yourself to this point. And all too often, when we get triggered or overwhelmed, we forget about those things. But when we can process through the feeling and process through the emotion and then look back objectively, we'll start to see the evidence of the momentum we've gained and the miles that we've walked and the things that we faced that have brought us to here. Like we're currently standing in a previous vision that we've had. We're currently standing in something we only once dreamed about and we forget. And in that moment is where you start to reflect back on what got me here. Like, wow, I'm pretty resilient. Wow, I figured this out before. Wow, I remember when I launched the business, I didn't have an idea. Wow, I remember that I got feedback from customers. Wow, I remember that I called a friend and told them what I was going through. Wow, I remember that I had accountability. Wow, I remember that I prayed. I remember that I journaled. I remember that I meditated. And it starts to bring this massive amount of clarity because the only time we lose the game is when we react to temporary emotions that create permanent results we don't like. But we win the game when those emotions or those feelings come up and we take a step back and we choose how to respond. Because that stagnation of doing nothing or ruminating or overwhelming is the thing that's getting in the way of us having the thing that we want on the other side of those feelings. So it's really important and it's really powerful to have this in your awareness, but to also remember that there's no finish line with this. This is something you work through, something that comes up, something that's going to keep coming up. And for any of us that have kids or you have kids, you can relate to this so much in parenting and how many times we repeat things and help them with things and they navigate things. And we're no different. Most of the time, the deepest levels of entrepreneurship are reparenting yourself as you continually molt and become the next version and become the next version. And all too often, emotions are made wrong and our bodies are made wrong and the thoughts that we have are made wrong. But truthfully is when you make them right and you give yourself the space to separate from them and look at them objectively and feel them and release them, it leads to the clarity and most of the time the permission slip we're looking for, to have the courage to go try this new thing, to start this new habit, to lock back in on the things that we stopped doing that were working. And it's in this process that we continually grow because no one outside of you has your answers. You have your answers. You have the thoughts, you have the feelings, you have your vision. But all too often we get too separated from them because of the noise and the stories our brain tells us and the situations that are outside of us. And as my dear friend TJ, who's been on this podcast, says, is where you point your finger, your power goes. But if you're also pointing your finger at yourself from a place of bad or wrong, or I can't believe I'm crying, or I can't believe I'm upset again, all we're doing is prolonging its happening instead of just allowing ourselves to have the experience and then come out the other side and say, what aligned action can I take? And I find that this is so powerful. And I think all too often people make coaching and supporting people and client work all about the tactics and the strategies instead of about the person who's executing those tactics and strategies to make sure that they have the ability, that they have the support. Just like every one of the best athletes in the world, all the Olympians in the world, they face the same things and they do their process and they go run that race and do the best that they can and they reflect. But we all have fears. We all have emotions. We all have lives. We all have circumstances in our lives that some go as planned and others don't. But we all have control over is our relationship with ourselves and being as loving and supportive and forgiving with ourselves as possible and is needed to be able to get to the goals that we're going after. And so if this lands for you, if this resonates for you, I invite you to try this. And I invite you to lean into support. If you have a friend who can support you, let them support you. If I can support you, reach out and I'll support you. But I think there's been this wool pulled over everybody's eyes that everything's funnels and strategies and marketing and messaging and all these things, which are all there, 1,000%. But those are just the plays in the playbook. And everybody ignores the player, who's the most important asset on the field, which is you. And how you see the world and your mindset around it and how you regulate your emotions and how you're able to process them and feel safe through them, both with yourself and with mentors or with people who support you, is truly the secret to keep pushing and keep reinventing until you achieve the goal that you've set out to achieve. And so my invitation for you is to save this and to use this and to come back to this any single time that you need it, because there is no other you. There's no one else who can build your vision. There's no one else who can build your vision. There's no one else who can bring your dreams and your heart to life. And your body is screaming, pay attention, I'm going to help navigate you. And in every one of those processes, we grow, we feel, we pick up a notch of experience on our belt. And then when it happens again, we navigate it faster to stay in the most important place, which is in progress forward, to achieve those goals or to get to the next mile marker. And you're worth it. And I just wish everybody knew this, and I hope you know this, that you are worth it. No one else can be you. And so I want you to know that. And I want you to share that light of yours proudly. And I want you to build that vision of yours as proud as you can. And I want you to get support, whether it's friends or family or coworkers or community or me or anybody else that sees you for who you are and allows your humanity to exist. Because your humanity is your greatest superpower. And I want you to use all of it so that you can share it and have everything that you've ever dreamed of. And so this was on my heart today, and I just felt called to share it. So if I can support you in any way, you know how to get a hold of me. It's my favorite part of what I do with my clients, my favorite part of helping people scale. It's scaling the relationship with themselves so they can achieve whatever it is they set out to achieve. And that's truly one of the secrets that nobody talks about because it's not sexy and it's not shiny and it doesn't have revenues numbers associated with it. It's because the breakthroughs you get are so much more valuable than revenue, and the revenue comes as a byproduct. And so I hope you have a beautiful day, whatever day of the week you're listening to this on. Know that you're special. Know that you're blessed. I hope you feel nothing but love and joy and know the difference that you are. And I will either see you in the next episode or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, have a beautiful day. I love you and God bless.